from home. Sometimes I feel like I'm almost gone. Sometimes I feel like I'm almost gone. Sometimes I feel like I'm almost gone. A long way from home. A long way from
My name is Mahalia Jackson, and I was born the granddaughter of slaves. Y'all say it's New Orleans. We say New Orleans. I was born down on the waterfront. We say it was a house, but now that I've been all kinds of places and I've been in real houses, I realized that the house we lived in was a waterfront shack. And that always made me feel bad. When you looked up, you could see the sun shining through, but that also meant that when it rained inside. And like I said, that always made me feel mighty bad. I lost my mother when I was 5, and that's why I was able to sing that song all throughout my career, because I was a motherless child from the time I was 5 years old. I had 4 aunts, and they raised all of us. My mother lived with her sisters, and my father lived down on the docks. He worked down on the docks during the day, he cut hair in the evening, and he preached his heart out on the weekends. And that's where I learned how to sing, was in my family's church. I love singing there. We found, not just me, but we as black people, we found comfort in church. We found that there was a peace. We found hope in church. And I love singing at my family's church. But right around the corner from my family's church was a Pentecostal church. Now, these people was brand new people. They was from California. And instead of singing the yearning Baptist songs about wanting to be delivered, you know, from mistreatment and stuff, they sang about joy. They sang about being free, and even though they wasn't free, they was free in the Lord. You know, God did not make the earth for just anybody. He made the earth for men. He didn't say whether they was black or white. He said he made the earth for all men. There was a movement called the Great Migration. And during that movement, millions of black people moved from the south to the north. And they moved there for prosperity. There was nothing in the south but the same cotton fields, the same tobacco fields, and the same sugarcane fields. But up north they had factories. Up north they had industry, they had hotels. And so we could work and earn a decent wage. And so I joined that movement. And I moved to Chicago, and I lived there with my aunt. And as soon as I got there, I was immediately amazed because she hailed a cab. And a white man came with a car, and he picked us up, and he carried us wherever we wanted to go. That was something that I had never seen in the South. When I got to Chicago, it really stuck to me. And everything that I am today, I owe to Chicago. Because in Chicago, the Negro found an open door. They was talking about doing a whole bunch of things that we never talked about in the South. They had organizations, and I mean, it was more than just the NAACP. They had all kinds of civic organizations. They was joining groups. They was talking about getting educated and having their own businesses. And so, like I said, in Chicago, the Negro found an open door. I worked in the factories, and I washed clothes there. I did laundry, and I still worked in private homes like I did down south. Now, when I got there, my aunt went to a church, and I did go to my aunt's church with her. And when I got up to sing a song, they looked at me like I was crazy. They said, is something wrong with her? Is she okay? Why is she singing like that? Because I felt the songs that I sang. You know, when there was the great migration to the north, there was another movement, and it was called white flight. Because as black people moved into the cities, white people moved out of the cities, and they moved into the suburbs. But what they did was they left their homes with their mortgages, they left their churches with their mortgages, and they left all these fancy pianos and instruments that I had never seen before. So when black people moved in, we took over their mortgages. We bought those churches. And the banks didn't seem to care because they didn't see black or white, they saw green. And so we own those houses and we own those churches. So like I said, it didn't work out at my aunt's church, but right around the corner from that church was another church, and it was called Greater Salem Baptist Church. And it was there that I found my home. I began to sing with a group called the Johnson Singers. And from there, I was promoted, and I started singing solos all over Chicago. And I was told there, too, that I should take some vocal lessons. And I spent a whole $4 to get some vocal lessons. And the man said that I was singing undignified. So I left out of there, too. I met Thomas Dorsey. Now, Thomas Dorsey was known to have worked with Ma Rainey, and he also worked with Bessie Smith. Now, they was different singers than me, but I did like the way that Bessie Smith sounded, the way she moaned, the way that she really got into and felt her music. I adopted that into my God. It reminded me of my childhood when the preachers would preach, but they would be talking, and they would be singing, and they would be moaning all at the same time. And so I adopted that into my music. And I would like to think that I not only adopted that, but the New Orleans sound of jazz and blues, and I combined all that into a very unique gospel sound. I had critics. I had plenty of critics. I was a big woman, much bigger than I am right now. And if I moved a little bit, they said I moved a lot. And so they made me wear church choir robes. I had to wear a church choir robe when I sang on the Ed Sullivan Show, because they thought that I was gyrating, and that was worldly, and that was for common people. We don't do that right there. A lot of things happened during my lifetime. Like I said, I was born in 1911, which means right after that came World War I. Right after that came the Great Depression. After that came World War II. And after that came the Civil Rights Movement. I met Ralph Abernathy, and he had asked me to sing for a Rosa Parks fundraiser. And I agreed, no questions asked, because I knew that I had a voice and I could use it. Now, during the Civil Rights Movement, I wasn't exactly up on a soapbox like Martin. I wasn't exactly preaching, but I did have a voice. I would sing, and I would sing for free. I would do fundraising concerts, and the money that was raised would help pay legal fees and help get people that was involved in the marches and that was incarcerated because of it. And so through that, I was able to meet Martin Luther King. Martin Luther King and I became very, very good friends. I was able to sing with him in 1963 in August when he did the March on Washington. The first song that I sang was kind of sad. It was called I've Been Buked and I've Been Scorned. And that really means I've been rebuked and I've been scorned. And as I sang that song and I looked out at the crowd in Washington, D.C., I noticed that all the faces that I was looking at, they knew exactly what I was talking about and what it meant to be rebuked and scorned, especially if your face was the same color as my face. But Lord have mercy, he gave his speech. And when I came back, the second song that I sang was How We Got Over. And that song was something like, how I got over, how did I make it over? You know my soul looks back and wonders, how did I make it over? Them times was really tough. And I was at the marches because Martin wanted me to be there. And Martin told me that, Mahalia, if I go before you, I want you to sing this song at my funeral. And the song that he wanted me to sing was called Precious Lord. Mm-hmm. And it was written by none other than my friend Thomas Dorsey. Mm-hmm. Now, they say that my voice part is a contralto, but I was so sad that day that I think I sang it in bass and baritone. Precious Lord, take my hand, lead me on, let me stand. I Martin, the king of love, was dead. There was race riots, there was fires, there was all kinds of tragedies going on behind that. And once again, people found solace and comfort in the church. It was a place of healing. It was a place where you could get temporary relief from whatever ailed you and the troubles of the world. And speaking of troubles of the world, I sang a song called Troubles of the World. There was a movie called Imitation of Life. And I was able to play myself. Not just a hired funeral singer, but I was able to play myself as Mahalia Jackson, a gospel singer. And I sang that song. You know, I quit school when I was in grade school, now that I think about it, because there was nothing else for colored women to do but wash clothes, iron, and tend to children. But I just knew that there was a better life for me. I really did, and that's why I did exactly what I did in moving from there. And my aunt told me when I left there that, Mahalia, you're gonna sing for royalty. And she was right, I did sing for royalty. You know, we took care of children as black women, and they were innocent children, and we treated them as the innocent children that they were. But it always bothered me that children that looked like me, they were sicking the dogs on them. They were spraying them down with water hoses, and they was trying to stop them from going to school. Never understood that. Active. I actually wanted to be a preacher, but to be honest, no woman was allowed in the pulpit. I had to be asked to be paid in cash, because at that time, no woman could even have a bank account. I couldn't cash a check. I couldn't have a bank account. I played for sold-out white audiences. They bought tickets, they bought albums. I went to Carnegie Hall, and the people, when I was there, they said, "Oh, we love you, Mahalia. You're beautiful, we love you." But the same people, when I was out on the street, I couldn't get a sandwich. I couldn't get a soda pop. I couldn't even go in the front door. That kind of stuff always made me feel bad, too. I wanted to be known as a Christian singer rather than a singer that sang Christian music. I had offers to sing in the juke joints and the clubs, and I had offers to sing in Las Vegas, but they said it was Sin City, and I didn't want to have nothing to do with Sin City. I traveled all over. I went to Europe. Then people in Europe, they rolled out the red carpet for me. They went crazy. They didn't even understand none of the words that I was saying, because they didn't speak English, but they went crazy for me. They rolled out the red carpet, and that was so much different than the treatment that I got here in my own home. I was still going through the back doors here, but over there, I was a celebrity. I was a star. They treated me like any other singer, and that's the other thing. I won a Grammy. And when I won a Grammy, they didn't have no category to put me in. I wasn't rock and roll, I wasn't blues, I wasn't country, and so they had to make up a genre for me. It was the golden age of gospel, and so that's when they started giving awards in gospel. That was for me, because there was no gospel singing. Now, as I said, I did have critics. I had a lot of critics. One time, I sang in one little jazz get together, and it was in New Orleans, and I did it because of my friend, Satchmo, or Louis Armstrong, who also was from New Orleans. And boy, did they drag me. They said that I had crossed over. They said I was now singing worldly music and stuff like that, and I wasn't. So that's the song that I'm going to sing for y'all right now, and it's called Just a Closer Walk with Thee. And I'm so grateful for my good friend Wendy here, who is here to help me with this. I appreciate it so much.
green